And here we are at another 72-hour fast, the end of our fasting for this week. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode, and we are working on improving our metabolism. We are moving through a space right now that helps us to reverse our chronic diseases. If you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted. We're talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes, who want to get off of medications, who want to improve their metabolism, and we are living, that's right, we're living limitless lives, which says that we're not allowing anything to prevent us from doing what we need to do. We're showing up with our best selves, our best health, and our best plans. We're pushing through those boundaries and those things that would tend to constrain us, and we're living a limitless life. Well, welcome. Wherever you're joining us from, whether it's on LinkedIn or Twitch, or if you're on Facebook, and of course here on YouTube, welcome to this space as we do a complete walkthrough of fasting. We're talking about how to prepare for the fast, how to get through the fast, and of course how to break the fast. And you're going to get to see right here in just a little while what I'm going to eat as my first meal after 72 hours. That's right, 72 hours. We've been at this, and you have joined us. Many of you have joined us. You did our first day with us, and then some of you did our second day. Some of you did our third day, which is ending today. And some of you have done the entire fast. And hats off to everyone. So if you did the first day, clap to you. If you did the second day and you ended yesterday, my hats off, balloons, streamers, and noisemakers to you. And then of course, if you're ending your fast today, as we are doing, then kudos to you. What I love is that you have decided to take charge of your health. You've decided to take charge of what you are doing, and you are now helping yourself show up in a space that gives you the benefit of reversing diabetes and improving your metabolism. We've got a lot of things going on here on the channel, and so I just want to highlight a couple of things that are very important to you. If you are new to the channel, or if you are returning to the channel, or even if you've been with us the entire time, you will notice that if you go to the channel now, there are a couple of changes that we've made to make it more streamlined for you to be able to enjoy and see the things that we are doing. So if you went to the channel before, on the main page you had all of our videos, right? And according to YouTube right now, I am over 2,000, actually over 2,100 videos on the channel. So lots of things that have been going on over the course of our channel, which we're celebrating actually 5 years coming up here next month. But what I've done is on the channel, if you go now, there are only 2 playlists. There is one that's called Start Here. And so if you're coming to the channel, if you're new to the channel, or if you're returning to the channel, and you want to know if I want to walk through the path that you've been talking about, the path that you've been teaching, how do I do that? How do I jump in? And that's what this playlist is. It is a curation of all of the touch points of the videos that we've done, and it walks you through the process that we've been on over the last 3 or 4 years, by the way. In that playlist, it's not 4 years worth of videos, but is the pivotal ones that we've said, hey, these are the ones, if you follow this, you are coming along with the path. In that list, when you're watching a video, if I make reference to something else that you want to dig deeper into, you can then go and find on the channel, all the videos are still there. So they've not gone, but this allows you to kind of walk through that path. All right, that's the first playlist that you will see. If you are coming, you've been away for a while, or you're new to the channel, or you are in our community and you say, wait a minute, I've gone through the Start Here, but what are they doing this week? Like, how do I catch up to what's going on this week? And that's where the second playlist is. It says this week's videos. And so all the videos that we've done this week, as we walk through the path, all the videos are in that list, and they will show up in that list. We are going to be updating that list each week so that you know where we start. And as you know, our flagship show, Our flagship show is Dwain Woode MD Live, which comes on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Central. And then all the shows for the rest of the week are with the theme of what the main show is. Of course, giving different angles or different ideas, different tips and tricks on the things that you can do. Now, what I want to do is I want to also go in and I want to highlight. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. So let's get rid of that. All right. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to go and show you our, let me pull that up really quickly. What I want to do is go ahead and show you our streams, or our shows, I guess I should say streams, our episodes that are working to give you the benefit that we've been talking about. So let's go back over there. Okay, yeah, here we go. Right, so this is our strength, strategy, and mindset. So remember, on the channel, all the shows that we do are designed to do one of three things, right? Remember, we talk about our Triple E formula for success. Let me pop that up. Educate, empower, and encourage. Educate, empower, encourage. So all the shows will fall into one of those categories. Education, that's the podcast, that's the blog, that's the different shows that we're doing. We empower with the tools that we're working through and the tools that you're learning, and we encourage with the community that you are a part of. And so our strength, strategy, and mindset, which is, we're on day number 80, I think. Yeah. So we're on day number 80 in that series. Is a place where you are getting to put to practice the things that we've talked about in the Limitless Living Health Action Plan. And so in this series, what we're doing is we're doing some, we've got some dumbbell presses that we're working on. In here, we do some curls and presses. We've got, there we go, we've got some squats that we're working on, and of course you saw me doing the dead bugs. Here we're doing some stomach crunches, and so this is designed so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? So we did a 100-day walk to consistency. Now we're doing the strength, strategy, and mindset. So we did 109 days of that. Here we are on day 80 of the strength, strategy, and mindset, and this is part of our MOVE campaign. Remember, metabolic optimization via exercise. So I want to just make sure that you understand that as you're moving through this space, that there are a lot of features that we have on the channel, and I want you to just jump in and become a part of that. The other part of the series, or part of the channel that we've been doing, is of course our fasting. And if you get back to the channel in the playlist, you'll see our fasting episodes where we do those check-ins on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so you can see what I ate my last meal prior to the fast, and then check-ins during the fast. And then, of course, today, you are here, you're going to get to see what I'm going to eat as my very first meal after 72 hours of fasting. Awesome, awesome. All right, we'll say hi to our community members here in a minute, but I want to go ahead and hop over and take a look at what my blood sugars have been. So let's go ahead and do that now. And this is my Dexcom, and it's a G7. You'll see right there my blood sugar right now is a 63. If you scroll down, you'll see this graph here right near the bottom, and you'll see that most of those numbers actually are in the red. And so the red is blood sugars below 70. And so for most of today, I mean, earlier in the day we were above 70, but most of the rest of today we have been right at 70 or lower, and that's what you see right here. My Libre, as I was coming home just a few minutes ago, actually getting ready for the show, my Libre ended, and so right now it is in the warm-up phase, and you know it takes about 60 minutes to have that done. So we will see what that looks like here in just a little while. But if I go back to the Dexcom, one of the things I like about the Dexcom is if I put my fingers right there, if I put my finger on the graph, you can actually see what the numbers have been running. So let's go ahead and let's do that right now. And we're looking right about there. There we go, right in here. And you'll see blood sugars have been running in the 70s, low 80s. And right in here is where I usually have, this is yesterday, by the way, this is where I usually have that toothpaste effect, and you see that it did not go up this today or yesterday. And if I come into this morning, so we're still in 70s and 80s, down at 3, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and look at we're in the 70s, and you'll notice that we did not get a big rise. and so I adjusted what I did in the morning. So we'll share that with you another time. We won't go into that now because that's a whole nother conversation that we're going to have about what are some of the things that can affect blood sugar. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's hop over and take a look at my monitors. And so here is my Keto Mojo, and right here is my contour meter. And let's go ahead and grab this guy. This is my container with my strips. And so I need a brown one for blood sugar. I need a blue one, there we are, for ketones. And I need strips for the contour, and I need a lancet. Let's see, where are we? There we go. So we need a lancet for getting blood sugar. So let's go ahead and let's walk through that process. So first I'm going to get a strip out for the contour. Go ahead and grab that one. Put that in here. And we're going to open up the, this is the blood sugar for the Keto Mojo. We're going to grab that out and get this one in here. And right here is our ketones. So if you're out there, what do you think my ketones are going to be after 72 hours of fasting? Right? Go ahead and drop that in the comments. Drop your guess in the comments. So I'm going to go ahead and open this one up so it'll be ready for me when I'm ready for it. All right, so as you know, I don't use a lancing device. I just use a lancet. So I'm going to grab this, open it up, and here is my little lancing needle, or lancet needle, and grab a finger and poke, poke, poke. Ow, 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 by the way. That does hurt. And let's see. Okay, that's not a brisk drop, but it was a good drop. Get that onto the Keto Mojo, and then onto the contour. And then I'm gonna have to keep this going because I need one more drop, and I don't want it to dry out. Okay, so I'll keep that going. And here, let's get back to this one. And so here's what my blood sugars are on the Keto Mojo and the contour. And of course, right there, you'll see what it is on the Dexcom. So not far off. Now the Keto Mojo is about 10 points from the Dexcom. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab this strip and get this one in. And this is my ketones, and I see some people starting to comment. I saw one guess in there for ketones. So let's get that one started. All right, so there we go. So get that one on the way. And so what do you think it's going to be? 72 hours of fasting. And while that's doing, let me go ahead and pull up my Keto Mojo. So 3.3. Look at that, y'all. 3.3. And let me go ahead and sync this. Get that over. And make sure we can get all that information over there. And then we'll take a look at what my blood sugars are. So let's talk a little bit about ketones. Okay. So, and we're looking at three numbers. Let me go over to this view. So right here, right in the middle, you see that big number, that 0.9. And that's what's called the Keto Index. The Keto Index. Give me just a second. And this is a Keto Index, and it is a ratio of glucose, right, what you see in the red, to ketones, glucose to ketones. And it is, if you're looking at that number, you're saying that if I divide glucose, which is 54, by ketones, which is 3.3, that doesn't come out to be 0.9. Well, what you have to understand is that number is actually a calculation. So let me do this really quickly. I'm going to switch over and I'm going to grab my calculator. So I got to remember those numbers, 54 and 3.3. So let me grab my calculator. Okay, and then let's come back over here. So 54 was the blood sugar, and I have to convert that into international units. Right now, you don't have to remember that. And divide that by 18. And it comes out to a 3, right? And if I divide that, did I get that? Is that right? By 3.3, it comes out to 0.9. There you go. Yeah, okay. Just wanted to make sure. And so that's where that 0.9 that you see in the middle of the screen comes from. And then, of course, glucose, 54, and ketones, 3.3. And remember that ketones, when we're talking about fasting, talking about ketogenic diets, talking about fasting mimicking diets, we want ketones to be 0.5 or higher. Less than 0.5 considered normal. 0.5 or higher is considered 0.5 to 1.5 is considered nutritional ketosis, and then above that is considered therapeutic ketosis. Okay, and so right now I'm in the therapeutic ketosis range, and this is what I want. So for the three numbers that you're looking at, let's go back over there. For the three numbers that you're looking at, we want the GKI to be as low as possible. We want blood sugars to be low, and we want the ketones to be as high as possible. Right? And anything though of 0.5 or higher are considered within the range of what we want. And this combination that you're seeing there, this combination tells me that my blood sugars are low, so my body's not currently using glucose for energy because it's low, and the ketones are high because my body is breaking down my fat cells. And how does that translate into one of the other parameters that we've been tracking? How does that translate into, let's go over here and grab this one. And so that is what my weight is as of this morning. I didn't weigh myself when I came back in a little while ago, but that's what it was. I usually weigh twice a day, by the way. That's what my weight is currently. And you will recall, if we go to this graph, that what we've been doing is over the course of time, we've been tracking from, and here it is 260. And this one, as I said before, doesn't have my highest weight, which was a 285, but 260 is where that was, and then tracking down to where we are now at 183. Okay, so 60 plus, what's that, 17, so 70 plus points on this. And then if we go back to look at the course of time, at my highest weight at 287, that gives us a good indication of what's been going on. Now, some of you that are out there have one of our community members that I do see in the comments right now, who has been, for the first time in a long time, been down to his high school weight. Right, so we have people coming through the office, people in the community that are having amazing benefits. People whose A1Cs have dropped, people whose blood sugars have gone down. They're coming off medications. I have one of our community members right now who's off of all insulin, actually off of most medication. And so we want to make sure that you understand that the things that you're seeing, these aren't isolated events. These aren't isolated benefits that we're getting, and this benefit comes from simply getting healthy. Now, and that's a point that I want to make as we're walking through the Limitless Living Health Action Plan. The plan is designed to put together the things, the features, the pillars that have been shown to give benefit. And so walking through the plan, it's designed to be a blueprint. It's designed to be a set of guardrails. And if you follow that process, then the thing that you end up with, right, the product you end up with, this body, looks like what we think it should look like, right? So that's the idea of a blueprint. And so so that's also one of the reasons for the change that you see on the channel, where we say, okay, there are lots of things that people can do, but how do we get them in the process quickly and get them started down the path of being successful when it comes to their health? And that's that Start Here playlist that you see. Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead, and I want to hop over, and I want to do a quick check-in with you. Whenever you're doing anything, whenever you're making changes, you want to make sure that you are looking at the things that are bringing benefit and to see if they are working the way you expect. Are they doing the things you're supposed to be seeing? And further, are you personally responding in a way that is consistent with what we would expect for you to be safe, for this product or this process to be beneficial, and for you to enjoy your life, right? Because after all, that's why we limitless living, right? We're enjoying life. So let's go ahead and let's look at our check-in for right now. And when we check in, there are three things that we want to talk about: how we're doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. And you will recognize that those are three of the domains of health that we talk about. But these are the places where people tend to have the most challenges, and so that's why we go through these. So how are we doing physically, mentally, and emotionally? So physically, a couple of points. One, I have actually been a little bit more tired this week than I have been in the past. And I'm not quite sure why that is, other than right now, we are still, by the way, we are still in the process of not having air conditioning. Yeah, so you can imagine what that's like. So we've got some portable things that we've done. They tell me that the part that they need for the compressor that's outside, anyway, there's a whole other old conversation that's going on there. And so perhaps not sleeping as comfortably at night, right? That's a possibility. But I have been a little bit more tired this week than I have been in the past. The other thing is that yesterday my son and I were outside working out, and so we were doing our weightlifting and so forth, and towards the end of the workout, so we go through and we do the warm up, and we do the bench presses, we do the curl and presses, we do the squats, we do the lateral raises, and we do a balancing exercise, and we do a centering exercise. So we're getting close to the end, and we're doing the last set of the squats. And as I went down and came up, I felt a little bit lightheaded. Okay, so not for long, but I'm usually able to make it throughout the entire workout without having any issue. And I think that was because I was not hydrating well. And so I have something here. So give me a second. Let me open this. So I've got some things here that I am hydrating with. So I'm pouring this into a cup. So that's what you probably hear right now. To make sure that I am maintaining and getting good hydration. So physically, there were some different things that went on this week. Mentally, I'm actually feeling clear. I'm not feeling cloudy, lightheaded. I'm not feeling as though I'm in a fog, or that that I am feeling that I can't process, that I can't think. Right? So sometimes people will say, "Oh, I feel like I'm in a tunnel. I feel foggy-headed." I'm not feeling any of that right now. And emotionally, I'm very excited because we went away last week and just ran into so many people that we had not seen in a while. Got my son to meet some of my old classmates who are now doing amazing things. That was fun for me. He's working in the office this summer, getting ready to go back to school soon. And, it's an amazing thing. So we drive together to work in the morning. He works in the office, and then he drives us home. And that is a new experience for me. So those of you who have older kids, you may remember that. But just having time hanging out with the young man, right? And just being positive in the community. We're seeing amazing benefits for you as you are walking through the space. In the office, we play the videos, and so people are now talking and asking. And an interesting thing happened to me yesterday and I may have told you the story, that when I first started practice, right? So our practice has been open now about, this summer. Oh, wow. Summer is going to be 15 years. And so when we first came to town, we moved from Memphis, and before that we were in Ohio. And so when we first came to town, limitless living was a concept that I had an inkling about. But because of the stories that you heard me tell about my personal development, it was not a space that I felt comfortable in. And so when I started practice, there were pieces of limitless living that I infused into the practice at the time. And I remember someone coming to the office and they wrote a review, and they said, "Oh, I don't believe any of the stuff that he says. This doesn't make any sense. He doesn't know anything about diabetes." And so what I did, right, because once again, I am responding in a way to the outside based on where I was personally. And so I stopped limitless living, or the process of limitless living, for a long time because of the criticism. And then I remember I was talking to my wife one day, and she said to me, "Wait a minute." She said, "You've always said that you didn't want to be like everybody else." She said that you've always said that you want to be different in your approach to diabetes because you understand personally now how this works. So not just what you were taught, but you are in the struggle yourself. So why did you allow that to happen? And once again, it was because of what's going on internally. And the reason I tell you that in this space is that emotionally, I am aligned with my rhythm. We talk about rhythm, alignment, and structure. When your alignment, when the things that you do align with the purpose that you think you have, or the purpose that you have identified as you, then there is a synergy. There is a process that happens that when connections are made and the process that you're going through becomes, I'm not going to say it's easy, but when you are done at the end of whatever it is, whether it's difficult or challenging, or whatever the word you want to use, it is a relief and it is a boost to you, because it is still, regardless of how challenging the situation was, it's still aligned with where you're heading. And so emotionally right now, I'm excited for all the things that we're seeing in this space, and that goes along with the fasting. And at 56 hours or 72 hours now, the brain chemistry has changed, the hormones have changed. I'm running on ketones, and as you know, ketones, they make the brain supercharged, and so emotions feel better. And so right now you're probably seeing and feeling some of the results of my fasting. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and let's say hi to, actually, one of the things I did not do, let me do that really quickly. Oh, wow. Was I did not review my report. So here I am, 107 average blood sugar for 14 days, right? 5.9 GMI, which is my glucose management indicator. I'm in target 97% of the time, target being anywhere from 70 to 180. If I change now to, instead of a 14-day view, if I go to a 90-day view, here we are, we'll see that my average blood sugar 116, and I usually tell people I want their average blood sugar to be between 100 and 120. My GMI is 6.1, and I'm in target 98% of the time, with that still being a 70 to 180. Now, if we look at the actual numbers, and this part is very exciting to me, and I always want you to see this, right? So this is what goes on in fasting. And so let me do it the other way. I'm going to go back to when we started the fast. That was on Tuesday. So we started the fast right about here with a blood sugar of 109. And if you've not seen what I ate for that last meal, go back and watch it. And so whatever I ate, we started at 119, and then we started climbing. We went up to about 114. I think the highest we got was a 119, and then started dropping, right, down into the 90s, and going into the next day now, right, so still in the 80s and 90s, up to low 100s. And here's where we normally would see that glucose effect, and we see a little bit of it, but not a lot. We went up to about 111, 115, and then started coming through. And here we are now at 24 hours of fasting. So 99 is what the blood sugar was at that point. And then continuing into that second day of fasting, right? We're in the 80s and 90s, dipping down into the 70s a couple of times, right? And then coming into now heading to 48 hours, right? So 80s and 90s. And so here we are now at about 48 hours. So we're 78. So we started at 119. We were in the 80s and 90s the second day. And here we are 48 hours. And then continuing from there over into the third day of fasting, 70s, 80s, 90s. And see, look at that. We dipped down into the 60s, right? 80s and 90s. And then coming into today, into this morning, 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, and you'll see here the blood sugar is starting to dip below 70. Now, many people would say, hey, that's a low blood sugar. That we don't want that. We don't like that. But remember that because my ketones are high, this is not a bother because my body is not running on sugar anymore. is running on ketones. And if my body needs sugar, for any tissue that may say, hey, I want a little bit of sugar, I want you to watch this. See right there, we go up to about 80. Where did the sugar come from? Remember, the body still has the ability to take fat and convert it to sugar, because it breaks it down in from the triglycerides. It takes the tri part, the free fatty acids, sends those off, and then it takes the glycerol and converts that to sugar. So my body still has the potential to make sugar if it needs it, right? So here we go up to 72, so we're fluctuating there. And so now here we are at 72 hours into our fast, and we're at 62. And that is the benefit of fasting. That is the benefit of fasting. We'll go through more of that here in just a minute as we get into our discussion. But for right now, let's go ahead and let's say hello to our community members. I see you guys out there. Let's see. We had James Riley was the first one to show up. James, what's up, man? West Side. So Riley's World, y'all. James is out in California. I had the privilege of meeting up with him. Wow, James, was that 2 years now? Wow. And so we've known each other, I think it's been about 5 years since we did that. We did a challenge several years ago. As I was starting the channel and as he was doing some things in his space. So if you've not seen his show yet, go ahead and watch that. It's an amazing show. So James Riley, thank you for coming through, man. And then Cornelia. Cornelia says, hi, Dr. Wood with an E and LLG. That's right. Hello, everybody. Steve saying hello. We'll come back and talk about Cornelia and Steve here in just a minute. Cornelia saying, hey, Steve. Steve is guessing 1.6. And as you guys saw, it was, what was it? It was a 3.3. And Cornelia, now Cornelia, were you saying that your ketones, okay, so Cornelia is guessing 1.7. Guessing 1.7. Pamela, what's up? Pamela saying hello, Steve, and hello to Cornelia. Steven saying, hey, Cornelia. Hello, Pam. Hi, Pam. 3.3. That's right. 3.3 is awesome. Steve says you've got some autophagy going on. You got that right, my friend. And then GKI is great. Yeah. So it's interesting, as we talk in the space, when people talk, when people say things, right? If you're in community, then you have to explain those, and that's the benefit of community. That you get to learn some of the lingo, some of the words that we use and we talk about. But yes, 3.3, amazing, and autophagy is going on, and of course my GKI is wonderful. So I love all of that. Now I said I was going to come back and talk about two people. We talk about all of our community members, and they are amazing. But two people that I do want to do a quick shout out to, Cornelia and Steve. Cornelia, because this week Cornelia had some amazing results when she visited her doctor. And so Cornelia, hats off to you. And congratulations on walking through the process. And then, of course, Steve, I think, was it this week or late last week? And I didn't make a big deal of it at the time, Steve, but I do want to give you a shout out. I think you said, you posted in the chat that your weight had gone down to, remind me, was it 174? And so kudos to you, kudos to all that you're doing, kudos to the benefits that you're seeing in the space. Okay, so wanted to make that comment for both of you. And then I do see another one of our community members that I did want to shout out as well, Pam. And Pam is having some amazing benefits in our community in our after the show. So we do for our community members, we do an after the show session. And so in our after the show, she was sharing that she had some comments from some, I think it was family members who had been commenting on the fact that she had lost weight. Says she herself had not seen that. But when they commented, she was like, "Oh, okay, right." So, Pam, kudos to you and congratulations to all of the community members. Yeah. So Steve says 174. So for Pam, that's your music. For Steve, 174, man. And then Cornelia, for all that's going on with you this week. Congratulations. I didn't mean the laugh one. My finger hit the button. All right, so let's go ahead and let's so once again, for everybody who's out there, right, whatever benefit that you're getting, and I want to encourage you when you show up in the space. And I know it's easy sometimes to just be here, because I see some of you that are out there. It's easy to be here and to watch and to listen. When we talk about the health action plan, right, it's Limitless Living Health Action Plan. And the reason I put the action word in there is because your behavior, what you do, infuses the things that we do with power and with wings. And so part of the we educate, we empower, we encourage, right? That triple E formula for success. That education part, the empowerment part. That's the community. Gets so much benefit when you share where you are. Now the successes, we love to hear successes, right? Like we've just shouted out a couple of people right here. But even when you're having a challenge, because the challenge that you're having is exactly the challenge somebody else is having, and they're in their world and they're not quite sure how to get over it. And so seeing and hearing from you is a powerful way of encouraging the rest of the community and encouraging all of us to do what we've been tasked to do. So make sure that you are not just keeping those things to yourselves, because it is a benefit to the entire community. When I say entire community, and not just the people that you're seeing, right? Not just the people that you're seeing there. I'm talking about me personally. So when I hear your story, when I see your story, I get encouragement. So I started saying, I told you the story about in the office, about when I first started. The other things that that happened to me this week or last week actually. So we had a new patient who came to see me, and they walked in the door and they said, I'm glad to be here. And they said, my doctor said to me, this is their doctor now, when they sent them over, they said, hey, I'm going to send you to see Dr. Woode. And the doctor said to them, you got to do what he says. And this is the part that used to bother me, right? And they said, well, he's not going to play around with you, right? And I used to think of that as a negative, but I now see that as a positive. The reason I see that as a positive is that my colleagues are now understanding that the process is important. We can do things a lot of different ways, and everybody else can do things the way they do it, but there's a process that we've been walking through. And let me say this. This is poor PR, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Our path that we're walking on is not for everybody. Let me pause. The path that we're walking down right now is not for everybody. And everybody is not in that space right now. They may come to this space. Some other things are going on, some other things that are on their mind, other things that are in their life. That's perfectly fine. But one of the benefits of the education and the empowerment is that you get the information. The information is designed to help you as you walk through your path, which is why when we started before we did the health action plan, the thing that we did, if you remember, the series that we went through were the domains of health. And the domains of health come directly from the Limitless Living Health Action, Limitless Living Inventory, which says I've got to look at all of my life and make sure that all of my life is in a space where I'm ready to walk through the process. Even as I am sharing Limitless Living, and you heard me welcome people from other spaces, churches and community centers, as I'm walking them through the process, what I'm starting with is the domains of health. Because you can't be ready for the health action plan until you've dealt with the domains of health. And so I was very excited when this patient told me that one of my colleagues had said to them, made this comment, because now they understand that it is a process, and the process is the process. Can I say it that way? Yeah, the process is the process, and the process works the way the process works. And we can try to circumvent, we can try to go around, but when we do that, we don't get the full benefit of the process. And so that's why you hear us here on the show very much excited about the process that we're on, because the process is the process. It is how we get the benefit that we are looking for. And if we don't follow the process, then that checklist, we don't end up to the place where we think that we should, in that space as quickly and as efficaciously. All right. So let's go ahead and let's hop over and let's do our discussion for today. Let's do that right now. All right, so what are we doing? Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we going through this entire process? Well, to set the stage always, it is that we are in the process of improving our metabolism. We are reversing diabetes. We're getting off medications. We are working to right what's wrong in our bodies. There's a what was the show? There was a cartoon actually that said we right the wrongs. Anyway, so that's what we're doing. And as we walk through that, the very first thing to understand is this idea of metabolism, which is what we've been walking through and talking about this entire week, and really the underpinnings of all that we do. And as we discuss metabolism, as we discuss health, because it is the place where we find the most difficulty in our health. And those pillars that we talk about in terms of how do we get off of medication, how do we improve our diabetes, are what are laid out in our health action plan. Our health action plan says that there are several pillars that if we follow them, they give us the best possibility of becoming successful when it comes to our health. And so that health action plan, the Limitless Living Health Action Plan that we've been walking through, is the space that gives us all of those parameters. Those are the pillars, right? So we're walking, we're fasting, we're strength training, balanced bites, rest and recovery, of course, mental mastery, and structure and planning. That is the benefit, that is the pathway, that is the functional health arm of Limitless Living. And you'll see one of those there that's listed is fasting. Fasting is number 2. That's one of the 2 components in the first tier of the health action plan. And fasting is an amazing process. And we spend a lot of time talking about fasting because fasting is the reset, if you will, of our body. Fasting is the thing that guts the house and gets it ready for all the additional updating, renovating benefits that are going on. So that's why fasting functions really as one of the foundational pillars. And that's why fasting is in that first tier, fasting and walking, right? First tier, because it's free. Did I say free? Free? Yeah, it's free. It doesn't take you going out and developing anything. It doesn't take you getting anything. It is just a process that you can start even right now. And the benefits that we get from fasting are amazing. So if we're going to use this tool, if we're going to get the benefit from this tool, we want to know how do we use the tool effectively. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump forward. Right? We normally talk about fasting and we usually talk about how to start the fast, how to get through the fast, and how to break the fast. But I'm going to jump forward and I'm going to show you what I'm going to use. Actually, no. Let's do it. Let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. Yeah, I was gonna change my order, but no. Let's go through and let's start with where we are. So why are we fasting? That's why we're fasting, because we're improving our metabolism. And how do we go about fasting? How do we get the benefit of fasting? When we talk about fasting, we talk about it in lots of different ways. So we are doing a fasting review right now about how do we get through the fast? How do we prepare for the fast? How do we break the fast? And so why is fasting important because it is one of the underpinnings, one of the first foundational pillars of the Health Action Plan. And so when I talk about fasting, I talk about fasting in 3 different ways, 3 different phases: preparing for the fast, getting through the fast, and of course, breaking the fast. Let's go into preparing the fast, how to get ready. And how to get ready, important because there are 3 key things that I want you to know. Number 1, how you prepare for the fast ultimately determines the success of the fast. If you don't hear anything else in this portion, that is the most important. How you prepare for the fast is ultimately how successful the fast is going to be. And you've heard me talk about the different things that we need to prepare. When you go to, or if you go to our channel, the playlist that says this week's videos, you'll see in there one of the videos that I do, which is the start of the fast, what I eat at the end of the fast, and then review blood sugars as we walk through the week. Well, the reason that I do that is because I want you to understand that your body has to go through a process of dealing with the things that you eat when you get into the fast. And so the things that you're eating coming into the fast have a profound impact on the body's ability to get into some of the other phases of fasting quickly and efficiently. For example, if you come in and your blood sugar is 500, when you get into the fast, the body has to treat all of that blood sugar and get rid of that sugar before it goes to the liver and use that sugar that's in the liver. And after that, then it gets to go to fat cells to break those down. So if my blood sugar is 500, how long do you think that I have to wait before my body gets into the space where it's using up the stuff that's in my liver, and then ultimately to use up the stuff that's in my fat cells so that I can begin losing weight? That's a conversation that we don't talk about often, but that is what's going on as we are getting into the fast. So ultimately, the food that we eat in the beginning, as we get into the fast, is ultimately important. Okay? The mindset that we have coming into the fast is important. The emotional state that we are coming into the fast with and as we go through the fast with is important. But let's go back to physical for a minute. You heard me say a little while ago that as I was walking through this fast this week, I felt more tired. Yeah? I felt more tired because there was some disturbed sleep probably as I moved through this week because of some things that are going on here in our house. So disturbed sleep. So I felt more fatigued than I have in the past. That shows up in the fast as the body is switching from one energy source to another, right? We're going from glycogen and glucose to fat and ketones. So that has a profound impact on what we feel as we get into the fast. And that plays into our mental as well. So the mental process of fasting is perhaps the most important part. Now, the food is important, the rest is important, hydration is important, but the way that you view fasting is of paramount importance. Why is that important? Because everything that happens to you in the fast is going to be filtered through the lens of your thought process. So when you're in the fast, if you're in the fast and you're like, well, I really don't want to do this, but my wife is making me do this. I really don't want to do this, but I guess Dr. Woode said we need to do this, so I'm going to try it. You right? So if that's the mentality, then anything that comes through the fast or comes into the fast is an indication that you need to stop. Well, I didn't want to do this anyway. But if you're seeing fasting as a tool, and I tell people, I make this analogy, when something falls off the wall, or my wife says, hey, can you go put this up in the closet or in the kitchen? Or something goes on and I need to go grab a hammer. I don't get mad at the hammer. I don't get mad at the screwdriver because it's just a tool. Now, I may get mad at the stuff that fell off the wall, right? But the screwdriver is just a tool. And I can decide I don't want to use the tool. Like I can decide, well, this calls for a screwdriver, but I'm going to use a hammer instead. Or this calls for a ratchet, but I'm going to use a chisel instead, right? I'm just using some silly things. You can decide to use a different tool. But do we get the benefit in what we want from that different tool. And does it make sense for me to be mad at the screwdriver? The screwdriver is just doing what it's supposed to do. But ultimately, what I want to know is, how do I use the screwdriver successfully? If I'm going to use it, let me use it properly. Let me understand how it works. Let me understand the benefits I'm supposed to get from a screwdriver, right? Is it one of these, one of the things I love is what these screwdrivers where it has the little switch, and normally, it's normal and you use it just like you normal. You screw, back. But one of the ones I like, one of the ones I have in my garage, is one that has the switch where it's almost like a ratchet, right? You put it down and I screw and I just turn my hand. The screwdriver stays the same, right? I'm just turning the handle. Or you put it up and the other, righty tighty, lefty loosey, right? So I love that. But if I didn't understand how that particular screwdriver worked, I would not get the benefit of the additional ease of using the screwdriver. And understanding what I'm doing, what the goal of the screwdriver is of paramount importance. And so here, as we're talking about fasting, understanding and having a mindset that says, okay, this is just a tool. I'm using this tool for the benefit that I want. And this is the benefit I'm going to see, right? I'm going to see my blood sugar go down, my insulin sensitivity improves. I'm going to see that my fatty liver begins to improve, see that my weight is going down, all of those benefits, right? Imagining that in terms of mindset. Now, when things come at me in the fast, I'm filtering it through that thought process. And that gives you the ability to be much more successful, okay? So physically, mentally, and then emotionally. We've talked about the HEAT model: habits, emotions, access, and taste. And the HEAT model gives us an indication of all those things that are triggers for us when it comes to eating. So I'm going to walk through that here briefly. Because remember, fasting is not just about, I'm not going to eat. Fasting is about the fact that we use food as buffers often. We use it for anxiety. We use it when we're sad. We use it when we're mad. We use it when we're glad. We use it for all kinds of things. And the HEAT model says that the things that drive us to eat, other than nutrition, come in one of 4 categories. And that's what you see: the habits, emotions, access, and taste. The habits are those things that we have gotten into a routine of doing. We go to the movies and we eat popcorn. Why? Because you eat popcorn at the theater. I remember we had just finished eating and we walked into the movie theater and we went to the concession stand, and I got a hot dog and got some popcorn and I got a soda. But we just came from home. We had just left home. Why? Because that's what you do. Everybody gets up at work at 11 o'clock, 11:30, 12 o'clock, and they're walking. And this week, I saw them get up and they're moving, and my brain was like, okay, what am I going to eat now? And then I remember, wait a minute, you're fasting. Right? Those habits, those routines that we've gotten into. You sit down at home, or you get up, and okay, we're going to get something to eat. We're going to get a snack. Emotions. Emotions are those things that drive us and those things that cause us to turn to food to either buffer, to avoid, to blunt, to calm us. But when emotions are high, emotions will push through decisions that we've made. You may have decided that you weren't going to behave like that. But when that person got on your nerves, guess what? There it is. You could have decided, right, that you're going to not spend money because you're trying to save. But you're walking past that store that sells that thing that really makes you feel good. And guess what? All of a sudden, the decision to not spend is gone. Not because you didn't make a decision, but because of the emotion. Access. Things are just around. There are some things I can't bring in the house anymore because I know if I bring them in the house, I'm going to eat them. So I choose not to bring, because I don't want to put that in. I'm dealing with my triggers. You get up and you're walking to the bathroom because you're watching TV, going to the bathroom, and you remember, oh, you know what? In the refrigerator, I've got that thing that you're going to go eat. Not because you're hungry, but just because it's there. If it weren't there, you wouldn't have eaten it. People say to me all the time, oh, you know, I'm going to bring it and I'm not going to eat it. I said, no, that's not going to happen. Now, you may not eat it today or tomorrow or the next day. You may not eat it next week, but at some point, some emotion is going to come and your brain is going to say to you, hey, we got that stuff in the refrigerator. We got that stuff in the closet. And if it weren't there, the emotions could have come and you wouldn't have eaten it. But now the emotions come and it's there. And so we end up eating it. And then, of course, taste. The taste is, we've talked about the bliss point, right? That perfect combination of sugar, salt, and fat that makes you eat and you say, oh, I can't just have one. People say, I love that thing. I don't know what it is about it. I just love it. Well, it is a combination of the taste of it, and it is also a combination of what it does for you. So we don't eat just because we like that thing all the time. We eat because it does something for us. So habits, emotions, access, and taste. So when we are talking about, when we're talking about emotions and we're talking about where we are in our fasting or preparing for the fast, we've got to deal with the fact that there are some things that are in us that will drive the emotions. And then, of course, when we prepare, it allows us to determine milestones. So what are the things I'm going to be checking off as I go through this fast? One of my milestones is the moment I see ketones show up. Right? The moment I see ketones show up, I'm excited. Now, I'm excited before that too, but okay, that's one of my milestones. Okay, gotta have some ketones. Because if I don't have ketones, I'm thinking, okay, what did I do? What didn't I do? What were my blood sugars? What did I eat coming into the fast? And that's why you see, as I'm going through the fast, right, I comment all the time about that toothpaste effect, because I'm like, okay, I got to do something about that. Because I'm still in ketosis, right? I'm above 0.5, but okay, what's my next milestone, right? So that you guys don't know that, that's in my head. So what are your milestones? What is my weight loss that I'm looking for? For me, I'm looking for every day that I fast, I should be able to lose a half a pound to 1.2 pounds per day. That's per day. So when I'm fasting and I'm looking at my weight, I'm like, wait a minute, that didn't go down. What happened? What did I do? What happened? What's happening? Okay. Also, for milestones, I'm looking for the community, right? When you guys show up, and that's why I said, you know, you're learning from me, but you're also a part of my community. So when I show up and I see, you know, Cornelia or Steve or Pam or Jennifer talk about where they are in their fasting, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm right in there with them. So fasting. Right? So preparing, what are those milestones? What are we looking at? What are we looking for as we prepare for the fast? So that's preparing for the fast. And so there are some tips and some things I want you to remember, some takeaways from this. Number one, preparation is key. It is key. How you prepare for the fast determines how you get through the fast. Prepare mentally, because mentally, how you get through the fast is an indicator or a function of the lens through which you see things. And that has to do with the thought process. You want to get rest, because if you don't get rest, then you are going to feel things through the fast that you will blame on the fast, but it's not a fasting issue. And you want to eat nutrient-dense foods as you are eating in your eating window and getting into the fast, that last meal, and then, of course, get into community. And I cannot stress enough how important community is. When we talk about our process, we talk about how we go through our lives, as we talk about how we get success. You can get some success, but if you want sustainable success, if you want success that is not as arduous as it has been, then make sure that you get into community, because community provides all of that for you. It provides you the ability to work and move in a space that is a lot more fluid than when we're trying to do things for ourselves. And so, as I mentioned, right, we break fasting into preparing for the fast, how do we fast successfully, and then how do we get through the fast. So fasting successfully, what does that look like? And I normally talk about this in a 24-hour 24-hour blocks, 21st 24 hours, second 24 hours, third 24 hours. But what we're going to do is we're going to break that up a little bit more finely and talk about it in probably 6-hour blocks. And the first of those 6-hour blocks is the 0 to 6 hours. One thing to remember, and you heard me kind of allude to this before, when we are fasting, when we start fasting, the first 6 hours technically are not considered fasting. That's considered the postprandial period. That is the time right after you finish eating, where the body is taking all the food and it's chopping it up, it's breaking it up, it's digesting it, it's taking the nutrients and the vitamins out of it, it's taking the proteins and sending them off, it's taking the carbs and it's taking the fat and it's sending them to where they need to go. That's what's going on in that process. And your insulin level dictates a lot of what happens. So when that food comes in, if your insulin is high, the body is saying store, 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 store. Right? It's kind of like being at a warehouse and just massive amounts of equipment and massive amounts of product is coming in and you're standing there, right? And the first thing you want to do is you need to sort that stuff, because you don't know where to put it until you know what's there. And so, okay, put that over here, put that over, let's send that to stores, let's send that to stores, let's send that over here to to budgeting. Let's send this over here to refrigeration. I don't know anything about warehouses, but that's okay, right? You get the idea? And so that's what's going on in that process. Everything is being shunted away into what's considered the appropriate place the first 6 hours. And so if my blood sugars are high, if I come into the fast with high blood sugars, that 6-hour period doesn't stay at 6 hours. It becomes longer because my body has to take time to begin sorting and processing all that stuff. So that first 6 hours, which is supposed to be 6 hours, and then I get into the fast quickly or get into the next phase of the fast, it lasts longer. Now, on the opposite side of that, come on now, let me push that in there. On the opposite side of that, if you come into the fast with blood sugars that are not that high, then the process of getting through the postprandial period is faster. It's shorter. Just like you could extend it, you can actually shorten it as well. So if you're coming into the fast with a fasting mimicking diet or a ketogenic diet, for example, then those will get you into ketosis a lot faster. So the first 6 hours is considered the postprandial period, and this is where insulin is still high, glucose is still high, energy is high because we have all the sugar that's there. And this is the period, actually, where a lot of people will begin talking about the fact that they have cravings. Well, this one and the next one. And why are the cravings there? The cravings are there because the insulin is high. The sugar's high, and so insulin is there, and insulin stimulates the appetite. And so the moment that blood sugars start to go down, even if it's going down, even if your blood sugar is 300 and it starts to drop to 200, you feel hungry. Why? Because insulin levels are high. And it stimulates the appetite. And you feel that drop from 300 to 200, you feel that as a drop in energy. Because your body has had to keep blood sugars high to basically force sugar into your cells. Because the cells are resistant. For whatever reason. That's a whole nother conversation. Okay? So that's the first 6 hours. The next 6 hours, 6 to 12 hours, is what's called the early fasting stage. And this is where, going back to our analogy, or to a different analogy, let's imagine that you went to the grocery store and you bought a bunch of stuff. And you come home now and you've sorted it and you put, some in the cabinets, some in the pantry, some in the refrigerator, some in the freezer. You took the paper towels and you put them in the bathroom. All that stuff is going on. And now you're ready to cook. Well, what do you have to do? Now you have to go and you have to open the cabinet. You got to take the can out. You got to go open the pantry, take the food out, open the refrigerator, take that out. So what you're doing is the stuff that you've already sorted out postprandial period, you're now having to go back and get it so you can prepare the meal. And that's what the body's doing in this section here. It's already portioned out everything to where they need to go. And now the body's saying, okay, I need energy. So let me go pull that out now. And this is the place where your insulin levels begin to go down, because the body has used up or is using up the sugar that's in your bloodstream. And now it's having to go to other parts like the liver and saying, hey, give me some of the stuff that's in there, right? So this is the 6 to 12 hour, and this is called the early fasting phase. And then we're transitioning to fat, which is the next phase, 12 to 18 hours. This is an important phase because it is during this phase that if you are not rested, then you would feel this a lot more profoundly. I think of this kind of like, and I use, the Iron Man or the Marvel movies quite a bit. And so in the Marvel movie, Tony Stark has the old arc reactor that he's created, and he's now developed the new one with the palladium. And so now he has to put the new one in. And so what he does is he unscrews, he unscrews the old one, and he has to get the new one in. And so he takes the new one, he takes the old one out, and during that process of taking the old one out, right, he needs energy. He doesn't have any energy. And it's not until the new one comes in that he's like, right, he gets all that burst of energy. And that's what's going on during this period. Your body is transitioning from burning the old source of energy, which is the carbs, and it's now going to the new source of energy. And in that dip, you can feel that. And if you are tired, you will feel that dip a lot more profoundly than you should. And so at this point, a lot of people will say, okay, the fasting doesn't work. Well, it's not that the fasting doesn't work. The fasting is working. As a matter of fact, that's an indication that it's working. But because of the energy level that you came into the fast with, you feel that as a big drop. You will feel it feel like a dip, but you feel it like a plunging into a valley. And so just during this period, people can become, the dip in energy, they become irritable or hungry. All right, hunger is starting to come up. And so when the ketones start coming out and get higher, then the hunger goes away. But this is kind of that period where people are like, oh, I need to eat. Let me pause here to make a point. And this is a thought process that you have to be in. Right, so when you prepare mentally, this is one of the things that we've got to get ourselves to understand. If we have stored energy, and most of us do, if we believe the studies, right, most of us have about 100,000 calories stored in our bodies. I didn't say 100. I didn't say 1,000. I said 100,000 calories stored in our body. So if we have that amount of stored energy, we cannot be physically hungry. I'm going to pause. So if your weight is above what's considered your ideal weight, you are not hungry. You're not physically hungry. Now, we did a show where we talk about the difference between physical and psychological hunger. And that's what's going on. It is not a physical hunger. It is a psychological hunger. It is, it's 12 o'clock and this is when we normally eat, so that we must go eat. Or, they say that I can't go all day without eating, so I've got to get something to eat. Or, man, I can't go without eating. Yeah, it's not physical hunger because your body has enough energy to last for a long time. And we'll have to walk through that process. So it is not a physical hunger, and most of the time it's in the brain. And this is where the transition happens. And if you can remember that process, that hey, I am not physically hungry. This is a psychological hunger. I have enough energy in my body to sustain me. Now I've got to deal with the fact that my brain is telling me something different. So that's the 12 to 18 hour period. And then we move into the next phase, which is the ketosis phase. And remember, ketones, these are the byproducts of breaking down fat. So in your fat cells, the body is storing fat, and when the body breaks the fat down, then it converts it into what are called triglycerides. Tri meaning three, so there are three tails on the end of what's considered a glycerol backbone. It's kind of like this. And the body breaks off the three, right? Cuts these three off, and that goes into the blood cells or bloodstream, and that is what triglyceride, that's what fatty acids are, free fatty acids. And the body uses those for stuff, right? We'll talk about those in a minute. The glycerol part, the big part that everything is attached to, that can be converted into sugar. So even as you're not eating, the body is still able to generate sugar. And people say to me, well, I haven't eaten for 2 days. Why is my blood sugar still not zero? Well, it's not zero because even at 2 days, when your body's breaking down the fat cells, it has the ability to convert some of that into sugar. Now, let's talk about the three parts, right? This is the free fatty acids. These free fatty acids now get broken down, and this is where ketones come from. Think about ketones kind of like, and silly example, right? The exhaust in the back of a car. We're burning gas, and coming out of the gas is the exhaust. So ketones really are the byproduct. They're the breakdown product of fat cells. Now you're thinking about, wait a minute, we don't like exhaust. Well, there are some parts of the exhaust that we don't like acetone. We don't like acetone. That's why when you are fasting, if you're not careful about your oral hygiene, your breath will smell different. Yeah, you will begin. Let's pause there. When we're coming through medical school, one of the things they tell us is if somebody's in ketosis, right, or DKA, right, their breath smells. But it's supposed to be a fruity smell. Well, I've smelled some DKA breaths, and it's not fruity, by the way. No, it's not fruity at all. So ketones, right? So acetone, we don't want acetone. But another one of the ketones that gets developed is what's called beta hydroxybutyrate. And that one we want, because that's the one that provides all the benefit that we talk about. Acetone, we don't want that. We want to breathe that off. But beta hydroxybutyrate, we want that one. And so this is what's going on in this phase of our body, right? Ketosis is beginning. We've used up the blood sugar, right? Now the blood sugar is low, as you saw with my blood sugars. We've used up the stuff that's in the liver. That happens at right now at 24 to 36 hours, right? Depending on, once again, how you ate coming into the fast. And the body's now saying, okay, I've used up the sugar in the blood. I'm using up all the glycogen that's in the liver. Now I need to turn to find a different source of energy. And this is where the fat burning is getting supercharged. We're talking to someone just yesterday, and they were asking about the length of time for fasting, right? So 24 to 36 hours is where the glycogen is gone and ketosis is in earnest happening. Can it happen earlier than that? Yes, depending on what you ate, depending on blood sugar and all those types of things. But at 24 to 36 hours in earnest, now we're turning into ketosis. In terms of energy, this is the initial stages of mental clarity. And you heard me talk about in our check-in a little while ago where I said, man, I'm feeling mentally clear. Part of the reason for that is the fasting and the ketones that are coming out. The clarity that you get in the fast. People say that when they fast, right, when you get past the first 6 to 12 hours, right, we begin to feel more energetic, begin to feel more clear in our thought process. And this is the reason for that. And then when we get past the 24 hours, 24 to 36 or 30 hours, we get fat adaptation. What does that mean? That means that if for instance, you're in a hybrid car, we are now totally working on battery. We're no longer working on glucose and glycogen. We're not working on gas anymore. We are now adapted to work on the other energy source. And this is the beauty of the fasting. And in this phase, and let me make a couple comments. So autophagy has already started. Remember, autophagy is the cleanup process that goes on in the body. Autophagy has already started earlier on, but now in the fast, as we get into this phase, autophagy is becoming supercharged. So our inflammation is going down. Our immunity is starting to get stronger. Definitely our insulin resistance is going down. Definitely our appetite stimulation is going away. Right? All of those benefits. Definitely our sugar is going down. All of those benefits that come as we get into this phase of the fasting. And so that is in the process. When we are fasting, to be successful in fasting, we've got to have all of those things around us that we talked about when we talked about preparing for the fast. This is why preparing for the fast mentally is important, because when we get here, when we're in this space, the things that are driving us are no longer our physical need for food. Oh, let me talk about that a little bit. At this phase, what's driving eating is no longer a physical need for food. If we've done a good job of resting, if we've done a good job of eating prior to coming into the fast, if we've done a good job of hydrating, physically, that's done. And so everything that's driving food at this point has nothing to do with your physical need for food. So what are some things that can happen? Number one, you can get a headache. Why do we get a headache? We get a headache, one, because we didn't rest enough. We didn't drink enough water. We get a headache because we didn't do a good job in our eating window of making sure that we were eating nutrient-dense meals. So we have iron deficiency or vitamin D deficiency or, whatever type of deficiency, right? Because we've not been doing a good job of maintaining good nutrition. You get a headache also because your blood sugars are usually 300 or 400, and now the body has brought it down to normal. So that process will take time for your body to get used to being in the normal. That doesn't mean that it's going to happen right now during this fast. That means that that's a process that you have to be working on to get those blood sugars down so that when you get into the fast, the drop is not so big. You may feel lightheadedness and dizziness as you get through the fast. Well, if you're not hydrated well coming into the fast, or even as you're walking through the fast, your body is still trying to get the same amount of blood around your circulatory system to give oxygen to the brain and to the heart and all the muscles and all the other parts of it. Well, if my volume is lower, how do I get the same amount of oxygen? Well, I've got to make the blood move faster. So people feel that as my heart's racing or skipping a beat. And I stand up. Well, when you stand up, what's supposed to happen is your body is supposed to squeeze the blood back to your heart so that the heart can send it to your brain. Well, if the volume is already low, when you stand up, the body's trying to squeeze it up, but it doesn't have enough volume to get it there fast enough. So for that moment, when you first stand up, you feel a little woozy. So understanding all of this and taking steps, hydration, to mitigate that. Very, very important. And when we don't eat, we also don't think about eating. That's why you always see me, I've got a cup right here. I'm putting something in it because if I'm not cautious, if I'm not careful, I will also go for long periods of time without drinking. And that does not bode well for fasting. So preparing for the fast is important. Getting through the fast is important. And of course, breaking the fast is important as well. And that's the third component of fasting. How do we break the fast? And that is of utmost importance because how we break the fast can determine also the success of the fast. What does that mean? And as we do that, let me go ahead and bring up to the table what I'm going to eat. Now, I'm excited because, let's do this. Here we go. Let me just bring it up. Okay. I was going to talk a little bit about it. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Get that up there. Get this up here. this here. Let's put this off to the side. So when we're talking about fasting, the things that we eat in fasting or prior to fast and when we break the fast, really, to be honest, are kind of the same things, right? Well, this all goes back to our idea of balanced bites, because balanced bites says that we're eating food that the whole foods, minimize the processing, no added sugar, starchy, non-starchy vegetables, lean protein, healthy fats, tasty, flavorful, and portion controlled. That's balanced bites. So that is the way we actually should be eating all the time. So that it doesn't matter what I'm eating as my last meal, and it doesn't matter what I'm eating as my first meal after the fast. Because all of my eating window is with the mentality of balanced bites. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what I am going to eat right here. So let's go over here. So that's not what I intended for us to look at. Here we go. Let's get back over there. Here we are. Here we go. Okay, let's change this around a little bit. So everything that I eat, or every time I'm eating, and I'm talking about what we're eating for health, you will see that I will start with a salad. And the reason I start with a salad is because the salad gives me bulk. Let me change this around just a little. There we go. Salad gives me bulk. What does that mean? So I am well aware that when I eat, it is a function of the stretch of my stomach that stimulates or regulates the hormones that are responsible for hunger and for satiety. That means I'm hungry, means I want something to eat, or I'm feeling full, right? Hunger and satiety. So stretch, when my stomach is stretched, it decreases the hormone that says I'm hungry. And so I eat a salad because it gives me the bulk. It gives me that stretch in the stomach. And that's going to definitely not immediately, it's going to affect what happens with my hunger hormone. It also gives me fiber, because the fiber is going to blunt the absorption of any sugar or carbs that I'm eating. And that helps me to stay satisfied for longer. Also, the salad, the vegetables that are in there give me some hydration. So I'm hitting multiple things with this dish. So my default meal always includes a salad. So if I'm out and I don't have time to cook, or I'm at somebody else's place, or I'm at a restaurant, when I order my meal, there's going to be a salad there. It takes 20 minutes for my stomach to send a signal to my brain that I'm not hungry, that I'm full. So if I don't eat a salad and I start with something else, the likelihood that I continue eating goes up. And so the salad gives me that. So let's walk through, and then of course here I've got some chicken. So let's walk through this. So let's walk through this in light of balanced bites, right? So whole foods, and everything here is whole food except for the cheese and of course the salad dressing. Everything else. So there's some lettuce under there. I've got broccoli. There's some cauliflower. There's some cherry tomatoes. There's some eggs that are in there. I've got some sunflower seeds. And right here, these are some chickpeas. And these are some banana peppers. There's also, let's see. Yeah, there he is. There's also some baby spinach. And there is some cucumber in there. So whole foods. No added sugar. Well, for all of this, no added sugar except for in the dressing. And this dressing comes from one of the restaurants. Now, the restaurant is not one of my favorite restaurants, but they have amazing dressing. So I actually we actually got this on the way back from our trip. So we stopped there and I told my wife, hey, get us some of that. So this is from that restaurant. So they have amazing salad dressing, by the way. Okay, so that probably has some sugar in it. Minimize processing. We've talked about that already. Whole foods processing. Lean protein, right? So I've got chicken. I've got some cheese in here, and I've got the sunflower seeds, the nuts. So lean protein. Healthy fats. Well, there's some fat in here. There's some fat in the cheese, right? Not a whole lot of other fats in there. Starchy and non-starchy vegetables. Now, most of the vegetables, actually all of the vegetables that are here are non-starchy vegetables. The thing that's probably the most starchy is probably the cauliflower. And of the things that are here, the thing that would spike my blood sugar the most, tomatoes and the dressing. Those are the two things that I believe are going to spike my blood sugar the most. Lean protein, healthy fats, starchy, non-starchy, flavorful. Yeah, this looks good. I'm going to eat this up right here. And portion controlled. Portion control, very important, right? Now, one of the things I point out to people is when you're eating, what you want to do is you want to find some stuff that will allow you to eat a lot of it without causing metabolic dysfunction, without raising your blood sugar, without spiking your insulin. And that's an important point. Let me make that point. There's a difference between spiking blood sugar and spiking insulin. I know we talk about them in combination. For example, some of the sweeteners won't spike your blood sugar. You won't get a big spike in blood sugar, but you certainly will get a spike in insulin because they're made from substances. So that's a whole nother conversation. All right, so here we are. So that's what we're eating. That's what we're going to eat to break our fast. And as we talk about that, as we break our fast, and let's take a look at what my blood sugars are right now so we see where they are. So let's go here. And so my blood sugar right now is a 68. And let's see if my Libre is up. And 73. So 68 and 73 on those two respectively. I'm going to leave this one up for a minute as we jump in and start getting the bite. So this is my first bite of a meal in 72 hours. All right, so that's what we're eating. 72 hours. Let's pop over here. All right, 72 hours, my first bite. And let's get to it. Here we go. Ready? Oh yeah. That is delicious. And what I love about this salad is that it has so many different textures and flavors. All right, let me bring this back over. So I got the chickpea, the garbanzo pea beans in there. I've got the sunflower seeds. I've got the lettuce, and I've got the baby spinach. I've got the broccoli. Right, so I love the mixture. I love the mixture of that. So tasty and flavorful, right? Remember, when you're doing this, when you're eating your meals, balanced bites, tasty and flavorful. Tasty. I've tasted some stuff that they told me was healthy. I'm like, well, that may be healthy, but sure doesn't taste good. And I'm not sure how long I'm gonna be able to tolerate that. So remember, this is also a mind game, right? So if you are eating things, and let me make a change to that. If you're eating things that you're not used to, and you're trying to get used to it, that's perfectly fine. But if you're eating this, if you're eating something, you're like, man, I hate this. Every time you eat it, you hate it, and you're not working on getting used to it, that's not going to last long. And remember, we are working on doing things that we can do forever. We're building lifestyles. We're building routines for consistency. So when I do a salad, I don't do the same salad all the time. Boring. And I can't do that forever. So I'm making all kinds of salad. There's one that I used to make. I have to go back and do it. It's called a 7-layer salad. Someone actually showed me a 12-layer salad. And you just layer all this stuff. And that's why I'm always also talking about the protein. What you put on top of the salad is important. So you can go out and you can get chicken all the time, but after a while, you're not going to, if you see another piece of chicken, you're like, I can't, oh my God. Right? You could put salmon on it. If you do that all the time, you're going to get bored. Today, one of my team members at work told me to get a steak. Well, I was going to get a steak, but I didn't want to spend the money to get a steak, so. I didn't get a steak. Maybe I'll do that next time. But you get the idea that you want to do things that are flavorful. That's why that's part of Balanced Bites. We could have stopped with, whole foods and minimized processing and no added sugar, starchy, non-starchy vegetables, protein, and so forth. We could have stopped there. But deliberately in the list, so that you could think about it, is the concept of it has to taste good. Has to be flavorful. Okay? All right. So, and I'm going to continue to eat, by the way. But, so breaking the fast. And so some important points when we talk about breaking the fast is an important one, several important, but this one I want to spend a minute on, and that is monitoring blood sugars. And the reason I want to talk about this is that when we talk about monitoring blood sugars, most people will think that, oh, well, I'm not diabetic, so I don't have to do that. They think, well, this is for people who have high blood sugars. Well, no, the idea is to be able to see what different things do for your body. And I've had people, family, friends, who've put these on and have been amazed and have made corrections in their eating, in their behavior, because they saw what happened with the blood sugar. So it's not just, hey, you're diabetic. Monitoring blood sugars helps you to identify those things that are creating metabolic dysfunction down the road for you. So that's why monitoring is so important. And you see me here, I monitor lots of things. I monitor blood sugars, I monitor ketones, right? I'm monitoring my weight. And we'll talk through the weight one at some point. But monitoring blood sugars. Portion control. A lot of times it's not that you're eating too much, eating the wrong thing, but you're eating too much of a thing. Like, I can eat enough broccoli to make my blood sugar go up to 300 if I'm not careful. So portion control, a paramount pillar in the idea of eating. Eating slowly, right? I'm eating slowly because the body takes about 20 minutes for that signal to get to my brain. So eating slowly. If you don't eat slowly, you end up eating a lot more. And then avoid sugary, highly processed foods. This I cannot stress enough. If you eat foods that require your body to produce a lot of insulin, even if your blood sugar is normal, then your appetite gets stimulated, your weight goes up, you have cravings, the body blunts and decreases its ability to burn fat. Insulin decreases, negates, inhibits, stops, slows down lipolysis. And lipolysis is fat breakdown. That's what that word means. So the food that you're eating when you're breaking the fast, very, very, very important. And just some tips and some points that I want you to remember as you're considering what you're going to eat. And really, if you think balanced bites, it falls into this category. But when you're breaking the fast, choose foods that help to maintain stable blood sugars while giving you nutritious value. We want good blood sugars and we want to keep nutritious value. You want to eat foods that are low glycemic index. So that's usually glycemic index 50 or less. You want to eat foods that have lean protein, healthy fats, part of balanced bites. And you want to make sure that you are staying hydrated. All of those important and ultimately will determine what goes on in the fast. And that is that's our fasting. That's the beauty of what we do. If you follow the process, if you go through this process, you will get amazing benefits. And this is intended to help you understand how to use this tool of fasting. Because if you're going to use a tool, you might as well know how it works. We'll be back to talk more about a lot of the fasting and as we walk through our Limitless Living Health Action Plan. Stay by. And we are back. We're back with our discussion. So using the tool, using what we are doing is important because it sets us up for metabolic success. Remember, fasting is a tool in that list. Remember what the Limitless Living Health Action Plan says, that we're walking, we're fasting, we're strength training, balanced bites, strength and recovery, rest and recovery, mental mastery, and of course, structure and planning. That is the list of things that serve as a blueprint. It is a checklist. It is a set of guardrails. It is a set of safety parameters for you, safety guidelines. And so walking through that process helps us to know that if we go through this, then we are doing what we need to do to be successful. And so this week we've been talking about how do we make this a permanent thing? How do we make this the default? It takes consistency, it takes a structure, it takes planning, it takes community, it takes guidance, it takes support. And that's what our accelerator program is. We'll see that coming up on the website. Make sure you pay attention to that. It's coming. So that you know that this is not just something that you're doing for today or tomorrow, but this is what I'm going to be doing forever. This is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. This is the new thought process. This is how I roll. This is how I behave. This is how I go. And that's one of the reasons we do the fasting, so that you would understand how to use this amazing tool. So let's go back and let's say hello to see some of our community members that are out there. And let's see, let me jump back up here. Let's see, where were we? So GKI, Steve was talking about his GKI. Where was it? Okay, so Steve says yes, his weight was 174. Yes, congratulations again. And Cornelia says, thank you, sir. Pamela says, thank you. Cornelia says, yes, congrats to everyone. Jennifer said, howdy all. Currently at 35 hours of my fast. First step back into fasting after taking time off. Too many family trips. Jennifer, congratulations. And to be at the 35 hours, that is so cool. I love that. Pamela says, congratulations. Cornelia says, hi, Jennifer. Congratulations to all others who have stayed tight. Very good. Hey, Jennifer. Hi, Pam. Hi, Cornelia. Hi, Steve. Hello, Doc. Your process works. And Jennifer, congratulations to you. Welcome back. And when we're traveling, right? All those different things that take us out of our space. And kudos to you, right, for being at 35 hours. I know I commented briefly about it, but I want to specifically say that to you, that I'm proud of you. Keep it up, right? Keep it up. And you've been an amazing part of our community. So we really appreciate you coming through. And Cornelia says, yes, it does, Pam. We're all proof. I thank God for Mrs. Wood. I knew my health was declining, but Limitless Living came through like a superhero and saved me from the disaster I saw coming. Oh, Cornelia, thank you for putting that in there. Thank you for that comment. And Steve says, that's great, Jennifer. Yeah, awesome. All right. So as we always say, and as I mentioned earlier, right, Triple E Formula for Success, we educate, we empower, we encourage. We educate with the show, with the blogs, with the podcast. We empower with the tools that we're all learning, right? So amazing tools that you are putting to practice. And we encourage with the community that we're in. One of the things that happened to me today, and so today is we don't usually see patients on Fridays, but we saw patients today. And so I was wearing my Limitless Living shirt and my ball cap, Limitless Living. And so someone said to me, hey, I like that. What's that from? And so I said to them, this is from a wellness program that I run. And so I started to walk off, and it was the lady behind the counter at the grocery store. And so she came out and she said, well, tell me about it. And so I said, I've struggled with weight for a while. Struggle with my blood sugars. I'm diabetic, and I finally found something that worked. And so I paused, and I said, okay, yeah. And so I thought, she was going to go back and I would keep going. And so she said, well, tell me, what's going on? And so I'm talking to her, and across the store, well, not across the store, but nearby, there was a lady or two ladies that work at the store, and one of them was talking about weight, that she was on weight, and that her plan was to lose one pound a year so that she doesn't put it back on. She doesn't want to lose it too quickly because she doesn't want to put it back on. And so the other lady says, oh, come listen to this guy. And so we were talking, and so I was telling them, a half a pound to a pound a week, blah, blah, blah. And she said, half a pound to a pound a week? How is that possible? And so I said, go to my YouTube channel, do the Start Here playlist. My point in telling that story is that there are people all around us who right now need to hear the benefits that you're getting. They need to hear the process that you are following. They need to hear the successes that you're having. They need also to hear some of the challenges and how you've overcome the challenges. And so we educate, we empower, we encourage. That encouragement is community. I know we talk about community here, but that community is not just the community that we're building here on the show and on the channel and in our space. That community is the larger community. Because remember, there are over 1 billion people that are struggling with metabolic diseases in the diabetes and pre-diabetes space. That's not even the people who have fatty liver, obesity, people who have polycystic ovarian syndrome, and that number grows and grows and grows and gets bigger and bigger. So you get to be someone that says, hey, I've been struggling with whatever for a while, and I finally found something that works. That's all you got to say. Don't try to teach them limitless living. Don't try to teach them health action plan. Don't try to teach them about heat. Just say, I finally found something that works. If they're interested, they will ask more questions. If they are in the space where they're tired of being tired, they will say, tell me more about it. And just like this lady who I just met, by the way, who said to her coworkers that were nearby, hey, come hear this. That's the power of your testimony. That's the power of your journey. That's the power of your story. When people see you and they're like, well, man, if Cornelia could do that, if Pam could do that, if Steve can look like that, if Jennifer can do this, if Jiyon is there and I remember what it was like. I got to find out more about that. and you can direct them to the channel and say, hey, go, start here. Start here, the Start Here playlist. But that's the power. That's the power of what we do. And I'm always, as I say, excited to be here in this space with you because you encourage me. You give me motivation in some of the times when I am feeling like I'm going to eat the Cadbury. On the way home today, I was going to pull off, but I was like, no, I came on. Okay. But yeah, that's the power of where we are. And we will come back later this week, Saturday night. We will have Video from the Vaults, 9 p.m. Central. On Sunday morning, 6 a.m., we'll have This Week in Review. Monday, we'll be right back here for Dwain Woode MD Live at 7 p.m. Central as we continue walking through the path of how we're going to be successful. Keep an eye out for the Limitless Living Accelerator that's going to be coming. I'm going to tell you when it's going to show up. Right, but I want to get that in your mind. If you've not joined our community, go ahead and join it. There's a link down here, a button or something that says join, so that you can begin walking along the process with us. For those of you who are sending people to the channel, if you've gone to the channel and you're looking at the main, let me do that really quickly. Hold on a second. Let's do that. And you're looking at the main page now, you'll see those two. Right, you'll see those two playlists. We've taken everything else off the front page, and we've just left two playlists. And you can tell people to go there to that playlist, and in the playlist there is a PDF they can download that is the Limitless Living channel starter guide, and it walks you through the videos in what order to look at them, what they tell you, the titles, and so forth. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna put that in the chat so you can share that with other people. All right, so here it is. So this is, let me go back over here. So this is the channel, and here's the playlist. And you click on that playlist, you'll come here, and this is a copy of what's in the PDF, right? This is what the PDF is. It's just a PDF version of this. It talks about the different parts, right? What videos? Part 1, start with the vision. Part 2, understanding what's really going on. Part 3, mastering the tools that actually work. Part 4, putting it all together or putting it all into action. And then down here, they can download the free starter guide. And I'm going to grab the link, actually, and I'm going to put it in the comments so that you have access. Let me grab that real quick right here. Okay, awesome. So always excited to be here. As I say, always, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E, y'all. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health in your life, avoid complications, go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted, and we are living a limitless life, which says that we're not allowing anything, nothing from outside or nothing from inside us to prevent us from doing what we need to do. We are pushing through the boundaries. We are breaking through those obstacles. We're fighting against those restraints, and we're showing up with our best self, our best health, and our best plans for our life. Now go live a limitless life, and we will see you in our next episode. Bye-bye, everybody.